world we live in today has forced us to be quite hectic. As soon as we wake up in the morning and we hit the ground running, it's balancing our schedules, balancing our lives, our careers, and our families. I mean, it's the constant fatigue, the mood swings, the tummy cramps, the exhaustion, and these things can really go by unnoticed or unattended to. In the past 2 weeks, we've been talking about the art of trusting your gut. And today, to help us unpack this further, we have with us healthcare practitioner and specialist surgeon, Dr. Thabiso Malefahlo. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Olwe2.
So, let's get straight into it. Doc, let's talk about the core function of our liver and our gut. How do these things work together?
Oh, Olwe2. If you are going to understand the liver, you have to understand that it's the biggest organ that our body has. And it being the biggest organ, it's still yet the friendliest and I believe the most hardworking. I believe the liver works harder than the brain itself. It does a lot in our body, and the functions, if we were to list them one by one, they are more than 100. So you cannot even get started with how many functions the liver has. That's how much it works on it too. But to cut it short for you, I'll mention just the 5 or 6 very common, very important ones that it does. First of all, you have to understand that the liver is connected to the gut itself. The gut, I'm talking about the gastrointestinal system, which is a long pipe itself from mouth to anus. And it's connected to this gut via the biliary tree, which are the bile ducts. And next to the bile ducts, also it's connected to another friendly organ which helps the gut, which is called the pancreas. So all of this, they work together in order to get our digestive system working. So now one of the important functions of the liver is that it produces a liquid called bile. You know, in Sesotho they'll say gala, you know, but actually gala is a normally produced liquid that we need, produced by the liver. It produces about 1 liter to 1.5 liters a day, and it travels into the into our intestines via the biliary tree, the bile ducts, and then via the bile ducts you also have what we call the gallbladder. The gallbladder, which lies just under the liver there, and it also stores the bile. In case you eat, it's ready for the bile to go and start working. So now this bile, it helps with digesting and reabsorption of the fats through our digestive system. That's one of the things that the liver does. Secondly, it produces clotting factors. These clotting factors, they help your blood clot if you were to be cut by a knife in the kitchen or to be in an accident while driving and you bleed. The bleeding will eventually stop because your liver is functioning well and it has enough clotting factors. And it also acts as a storage. So a lot of our vitamins, the vitamin ADEK, we call it ADEK, but it's actually vitamin A, D, E, K, as well as B12. They are all stored by the liver. Those together with iron and copper, they are all stored by the liver, and it releases them whenever the body needs. So it lets them go to supply the body with such. And another important function of the liver is gluconeogenesis. Basically, what it means is that when you eat, all the food, it gets broken down into glucose, which is the energy molecule that our body uses. When you're not eating, this liver will take what we call glycogen, and it will convert it into glucose. And then it supplies your body with glucose. So your sugar levels, they remain constantly at an optimum level. So when you eat, it takes glucose, it stores it as glycogen. When you're not eating, when you're starving, it actually takes that glycogen and converts it into glucose, so your sugar levels don't drop immediately. The liver is very important in the body. I could go on and on and on about the functions of the liver.
Yeah.
Like I said, there are more than 100.
And I think, you know, as women, we're hormonal, you know, we go through all these hormonal changes throughout our lives. And I mean, I've recently also learned that the liver does a lot of work in not just the food we eat, but in the makeup we're wearing.
True.
In the skin products we use. You know, how important is it for us to look after our liver, as this is the main place in which, this is it's the organ that eliminates all these toxins in our body?
Yes, it does. Actually, you can look at the liver as the detox factory of our body. So you can look at the gut as the food processor and the liver is the filter.
Yes.
But at the same time, the liver is like that friend, that neighbor that our body needs when it's in trouble. Really, when there's a lot of toxins in our body, you've been alcohol binging the whole weekend, you've been junk food eating the whole weekend, you need your liver to come to play.
Yes.
And this is the friendliest organ indeed. Even with all the toxins that we consume, it actually still forgives us. It repairs itself very quickly. It's actually very lenient on us, the liver. It takes up a lot of abuse that we put onto it.
Yeah.
So it's very important to look after it, because when you need it, you really need it to come to play. So to have it in good condition is 100%. So we have to watch what we eat, but also we have to look after our bodies in general. It's not just
Holistically.
what we eat, it's what you do on day-to-day basis that also affects the liver.
Absolutely. So as a doctor and a surgeon, what are some of the ailments that you particularly pick up when it comes to the liver, and maybe some of the things that pertain to our own negligence sometimes, to how we treat our liver and how we look after our livers?
It's quite a number of them, Olwe2. And it's not just the liver, but the gut itself. You find that we have a lot of patients that present with things like reflux and peptic ulcer disease. Inyogo, Olwe2. And a lot of these are actually because of either the food we eat or the lifestyle that we live. A lot of smoking that we do, the alcohol we consume, all the toxins we consume, they all lead up to this ailments. In the GIT, being the peptic ulcer disease, the reflux, but also in the gallbladder, you can get gallstones. A lot of the gallstones that people have, they are formed by cholesterol. So if you consume a lot of cholesterol or high fatty foods, then you are at high risk of getting gallstones, because your bile, the fluid that is produced by the liver, will be highly concentrated in that cholesterol. So when it's sitting there in the gallbladder, it forms stones that are made out of fat, basically. So, and these stones can be harmful in many ways. It can lead you to surgery, and they can even lead to death, the complications of these gallstones. Then you look further down in the GIT, constipation is a very common complaint that we have. And a lot of the problems that are caused by constipation, they could have been preventable, you know? And also not just constipation, but things like diarrhea, when your stool is a bit too loose than it should be. Those things are also, most of them are preventable. But what we see often now, especially in the urban areas, we see patients complaining about IBS symptoms, which is irritable bowel syndrome symptoms. Abdominal cramps, bloatedness, you feel like you have a lot of gas you need to release all the time. You feel like your tummy is bigger than it should be. A lot of people will tell you that I usually get this around the time I'm gonna get my period, but now I'm not getting my period. Why am I feeling like this? You know, it has a lot to do with the food that we eat and the lifestyle that we live, really. And food hypersensitivity. Food hypersensitivity is coming up very often these days. You find that you
especially
react
after lockdown and all the baking and cooking and greasy food we were eating and overeating.
Of course. You find that I used to be fine eating this type of food. Now when I eat it, now I feel bloated, I feel gassy, I feel abdominal cramps, or you don't even know which food is actually making you get those symptoms. But you just know that if you're eating, then you're going to have trouble. So it's a number of conditions that we see. On the liver itself, we see a lot of fatty liver these days, because the consumption of high fatty food it's a really concern now, especially in South Africa now. We've been declared one of the top 10 obesity countries. So that's how much fat we actually consume. And this fat, because the liver processes it, it can sit in those cells, and the liver literally changes. When you look at it, it looks fatty. It looks yellow. So it doesn't have that normal color,
Yes,
nice
that
color of the
nice
liver that
red.
we, the deep red that we like. So it literally changes, and it changes also in its function. The amount of alcohol we consume, Olwe2, it's a lot.
This country, us.
It's a lot, and the liver gets a beating every now and then, and every now and then it forgives us, but it can come to a point where the cells of the liver become cirrhotic and your liver fails, and that we also see a lot in this day and age with the amount of alcohol consumption. We actually see it in younger ages too, than before, which is quite a concern.
That is so scary. And I mean, I think let's take a step back, right, for clarity. The relationship between the gut and the liver. Maybe let's just get into that detail a little bit more, because, you know, when it comes to, we know what the liver is. I think you've explained that. You've kind of explained the gut is from the mouth right down to the anus. It's everything working together. Is that what the whole gut is?
The gut is, that's what the whole gut is. But the gut doesn't work alone. It's got friends.
Okay.
It's got the liver as a friend,
Okay.
it's got the pancreas as a friend,
Okay.
and then it's got the brain as a driving engine. You know, so everything that you do in the gut affects the liver, affects the pancreas, affects the brain. So there's a what we call a gut-brain axis, so which has to be in symbiotic a process all the time. So if we come and disrupt that axis, then the relationship is not so good, the working process is not so good, then the machine is not so well oiled anymore. So you have symptoms like the ones that we've mentioned coming up, and because that axis has been disrupted. But also you find that the brain also starts to give you symptoms, like your mood, which is centered in your frontal lobe of your brain, they get affected. Your emotions, they get affected.
You get foggy.
Yes,
You can't
you get foggy.
You wake up
can't
in the morning
think.
and you're like, what's my day gonna look like? Why can't I remember? Conte, what was I supposed to do today? Why did I forget?
Of course. Even the ability to focus and concentrate on whatever it is you need to be doing or whatever your work is, it becomes affected just because you've disrupted that gut-brain axis. So with the liver, the relationship with the liver and the gut is very, very close. One cannot function without the other. Remember, the liver has its own blood supply.
Yes.
But it also gets the whole blood supply from the whole gut. It goes to the liver via a vein we call a portal vein. So everything else, all the toxins that get filtered away from the gut, they go to the liver via that portal system, and the liver has to take it all.
Yeah.
All the abuse, it has to take it and deal with it. So if your liver is not optimum, where will your toxins go?
Absolutely.
Yes, so it's the one that's going to filter them and get them out of your body.
And we spoke about our lifestyles, you know, a little bit earlier. We spoke about how alcohol, the way we eat, etc. But to what extent are our modern lives now hindering how our gut and our liver is coping in this day and age? Like we mentioned, I mean, during lockdown, there were so many challenges. We were eating the most amount of starch. We were baking banana bread.
Dombolos.
You know, we were sitting at home, you know?
That's true.
How is our modern lifestyle really hindering how our gut and our livers need us to support them? And it sounds as if we're doing them a favor. It sounds like we're doing our own gut and livers a favor, whereas they're there to support us, right?
That's
to keep
true.
us healthy, to keep us well.
That's true.
But how are we hindering this process to make it easier for
It's
this
definitely
liver to work with
hindered.
us?
It's definitely hindered. If you look at our lifestyle today, Olwe2, the stress levels are high. We are constantly chasing time, constantly chasing deadlines. You know, our heart rate is forever above where it should be, because if you're not literally running from one point to another, but in your mind is running from one point to another, you know, so it's, it's very stressful, you know, and on top of that, we don't sleep, you know, and the combination of the high stress levels, the lack of sleep,
Yeah.
and the food we eat, they all lead to a high production of stress hormones, which we
Yeah.
call the adrenaline and the cortisol and the glucagon in the body. To a certain degree, we need those hormones. But in the lifestyle that we live these days that's highly stressful, we are forever at a high level of those hormones. Those hormones at high level and constantly there, they can be harmful to the gut and the liver. They actually, they can cause you stress ulcers, your reflux problems, they get even more. Then you become into you come into what we call a pro-inflammatory state, where you're always producing these inflammatory cytokines. Then you're always in an inflammatory response.
It makes me think back to how, you know, our grandmothers used to be like, you didn't nerves.
Yes.
You then see ulcers.
Yes.
Nerves.
Yes.
And you can see the relationship.
They were on point there. Nerves can cause you ulcers. They can cause you ulcers. Yes, they were onto something. Our grandmothers, they knew that very well. The high stress levels, they give you those stress hormones at high levels, and they can lead to what we call stress ulcers and stress gastritis and reflux problems, you know. So, and your whole gut, it becomes, it's forever in an inflammatory state. So you're always having these abdominal cramps, these bloatedness, and you're struggling with passing the stools. All of that get affected by all this pro-inflammatory state that you're always in a stressful environment.
And then can you talk us through some of the red flags to look out for if I have an unhealthy gut? There's a lot of words out there. You mentioned IBS. You mentioned leaky. You haven't mentioned leaky gut. No, I didn't hear you mention leaky gut.
No, I haven't mentioned it.
I've heard of leaky gut. So, Doc, can you take us through some of the symptoms or red flags of an unhealthy gut? I've heard certain words. You mentioned IBS, and there's also leaky gut. You know, what else should we be looking out for, and what are some of the words that doctors may use to tell us or signal to us that there's something wrong with your gut?
There's a lot of ways the gut can manifest itself when it's unhealthy. And the symptoms will not be only in the gut, Olwe2. They'll be in various parts of your body. But in the gut itself, the most common symptom that we see now is how your stools are processed. Constipation versus diarrhea. Those two things are not supposed to be there. Once you're suffering from one or the other, then definitely your gut needs help. There's something cooking that is not happening, that it shouldn't be happening. Then you talk about IBS. IBS is a group of symptoms that you get in the gut when it's hypersensitive to something that is consumed into the gut. So IBS will give you things like abdominal cramps, constipation, bloatedness. You know, it's a group of symptoms, but it's not an illness per se that you can see with your own eyes. Yes. So when you have symptoms like that, it's important to go and check them out and see which one is it. Okay. But you also mentioned we also mentioned the peptic ulcer diseases. Those are symptoms that will give you pain. I mean, the diseases that can give you pain and nausea and reflux. And when the doctor checks you, they can actually see them with a naked eye.
Leaky gut?
The leaky gut, the leaky gut also is a common name that is used by the general public. Okay. But mainly it means that your gut, it's basically loose. You have a form of diarrhea, and the absorption of the nutrients is not so good. Okay. Yes, so which is also a sign that your gut is not healthy, because a healthy gut is supposed to absorb, and the stools are supposed to be well formed and come out easily. Okay. And things like hemorrhoids. Hemorrhoids are a sign that your gut may not be right, because when you sit on that toilet and you strain, then your hemorrhoids, which are the vessels at the bottom of your gut at the anus, they will swell up, and they may even bleed when you wipe with a tissue. They can be very painful. Yes. They can even prolapse. So that's a sign that your gut something is wrong. But the gut healthiness or unhealthiness can manifest outside the gut system itself. Your skin can show if your gut is not healthy. You know, if you're not a person who normally suffers from acne, suddenly you're having issues with acne, because your gut is not healthy. Suddenly you're having issues with hyperpigmentation because your gut is not healthy. Your sugar levels are not controlled. You're having melasma and all sorts of hyperpigmentation on your skin that you never had before. You're prone to thrush. You're prone to fungal infections on your skin, which were never there before. That can be a manifestation that your gut is not right. The brain, like I said, is connected to the gut.
Yes.
If your gut is
It's a
not
second
healthy,
brain.
your brain is not going to be healthy. Suddenly you're moody, Suddenly you're feeling depressed, Your mood is low or you're anxious. All those things can be affected by how healthy or unhealthy your gut is. It can even affect your reproductive system, Olwe2. If your gut is unhealthy, it can affect your menstrual period, which can affect your sexual health, which can affect your potential to reproduce and have children. So it affects a lot of systems in the body if your gut is not healthy. So it's very important to make sure that what we put into our gut is actually what the gut needs.
And if I spot some of these things and I immediately say, this is what's wrong with me, I feel like you've just mentioned some of the symptoms of what's wrong with me right now. What is the first thing I need to do?
The first thing you need to do is to consult with a doctor, your general practitioner. A lot of them can be sorted out at that level. There'll be tests that are run because these symptoms, they intertwine. So we might have the same symptoms but not necessarily have the same condition.
Yes.
Sometimes you find that it's symptoms of hypersensitivity to the food, but sometimes it's a physical illness in the gut that needs proper treatment or surgery. So when you go and consult with the doctor, they'll be able to look and check which one is it for you. If you need to see a surgeon, somebody like me, they will refer you to a surgeon. If you need to see a gastroenterologist, which is also a medical specialist of the gut, they will send you to a gastroenterologist, And there are ways of looking into the gut, like a colonoscopy and gastroscopy, where we put the camera and we look at the actual physicalness of the gut from the inside, if it looks healthy or what is happening. Why are you having constipation? Why are you bleeding from the gut? Why are you having diarrhea? Why are you having cramps? Then we can see the tube from inside, what is going on with it. If at the end of the day there is nothing there, after all the investigations have been done, then you can actually say, let's look at your diet. That's when a nutritionist comes into play. The dietitian comes into play. Given that there's something or there's nothing, when we checked, the dietitian comes and works with us to treat your symptoms. And a lot of times the dietitian can actually, with altering the diet and the lifestyle, you can find that a lot of the symptoms actually resolve.
I mean, I went through that process. I landed myself up in hospital, had the whole camera down me, and it was exhaustion, stress, anxiety, lifestyle at the time. And once again, diet was very important in all of this. And reintroducing certain foods and trying to see, does it work? Does it not? Okay, let's pull back. This one doesn't work. And, just trying to see what is your tolerance, because at times, the gut does go towards intolerance, right?
True, it does.
Sometimes that is an indication that something's wrong with your gut.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, definitely.
And let's talk about dispelling some myths or talking about the old school way of how things used to be done. After a school holiday at our grandmother's home, we would then get home with, my mom had the orange and the castor oil. Was there something right that they were doing there after all that binging and sweets and junk on holiday? Was there something there that perhaps worked during that time or could work for us now?
You just took me right back.
The orange and the castor oil.
The orange and the castor oil. I remember it very well.
Was there something to it? I sometimes wonder. Were they onto something?
I think our parents were leaning more towards detoxing us. You know? Yes, you've been eating so much junk that your body is not used to. The whole year you're eating pap and milk, some veggies, some morojos, and now comes Christmas. It's sweets, it's zimbas, it's all sorts of things that your gut is not used to. And they knew the effect of those things as you're going back to school, that you might become fatigued, sluggish, not able to concentrate. So the effort was in the aim of detoxing the kids, you know, trying to get your gut clean so you can be flexible and, you know, you can be active, you know. The problem came on how they did it, because a lot of times with the castor oil, we were overdosed, unfortunately. They didn't really follow how much of the castor oil they should be giving us. And also to look at castor oil itself, what it is. It's a natural vegetable oil which contains a chemical resin. You know, when it's ingested, it's meant to be a laxative, a stimulant laxative, which makes the bowel move faster to get things out of the system faster. That's what castor oil does. So if you give it at high doses, then you end up with diarrhea. You can end up being dehydrated, with electrolytes being imbalanced in your body. So a lot of our parents, you'll find that they were not giving us the right doses of it, and it was not the right way of detoxing us. But the intention was good, to get us to a level that we are not fatigued and sluggish, and it's just the method they use. If it was not castor oil, it was ispate. You know?
Don't traumatize me.
If it was not castor oil, it was ispate Olwe2, and that also has its cons, you know. The spade also, it's a laxative. It's meant to clean out your colon fast. So you would run and get everything out right away, right on that day. You'll spend the whole day passing everything out. And the feeling of lightness. After doing that, that's what people actually like, and they feel like they are clean again. But you actually traumatize your colon when you do that. You traumatize your digestive system. You know, if you're treating constipation, it's one thing, but if you're inducing diarrhea, it's another thing. You know, and inducing diarrhea in severe constipation under doctor's orders, yes, it's a controlled way of doing it. Our parents used to do it to us regularly after Easter, after Christmas,
after every
holiday, you know. And a laxative is not something that you should use over and over again. You can even end up with what we call a rebound or a reactive chronic constipation, because now you're trying to get all the stools out, and now you end up with all the stools being hard again. And having a chronic problem of constipation because you're constantly using laxatives. So I think our parents had good intentions, but they could have been better informed on better ways of getting us to where they wanted us to be, the gut health that they wanted us to have. But they were onto something in a way that they knew that detoxing.
So I mean, then let's talk about children and, you know, I don't want to say detox, but maintaining their guts healthy and keeping their guts healthy. How do we do that? How do we go about that without doing damage?
You know, when you're talking about gut health, Olwe2, we have to understand that this whole machine that works in symbiosis that has been designed as called as the digestive system, it's meant to regulate itself to begin with. So we should never even come to a point where we want to detox. We should always give it what it needs so it can self-regulate like it's supposed to. We have our own microbiome in the gut. You know, it's meant to protect the gut. It's meant to actually help regulate the gut. So we actually don't need to be detoxing. But because of the lifestyle that we live, and the lifestyle that we live, we transmit it into our children. You know, the food we eat, we give to our children, you know. So then we end up feeling like we need to detox the children, you know. But to detox the gut, you have to start by giving it what it needs. That's where the detox starts. Your gut needs fiber. It needs roughage. It needs vitamins, meaning your raw vegetables and fruits. It needs plenty of water. You know, so if you let your child run around the whole day without drinking even a glass of water, but you're letting them drink Coca-Cola 3 times a day, you know, so they end up being dehydrated, there's no way they will be regular, you know. So we need to go back to the basics when you start talking about detoxing. So there isn't a drug or a drip or a procedure
That will just
can
reset it.
reset and revert everything back to square one. Now let's start at 0, you know. So the main thing to remember is to go back to the basics that are needed. So increase the fiber that you get in your bran flakes, in your oats, in your brown mabeles and all that. That's the fiber that, if you want your colon to love you, give it fiber.
And I think this applies to us as adults too, right?
As adults. So now we end up feeling the need to detox the kids because we give them the junk we eat.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yes.
It's quick,
So,
it's easy to go to the takeaway spot.
Now we're like, oh no, but you've been eating so much junk. Let's get your system back to square one. Because now you can see the child is sluggish. The child now is anxious or moody, or, you know, and the child doesn't even want to do anything. They just want to lie on the couch every day, all day. They don't even want to play outside, you know. The gut plays a big role in that. So now we feel like, no, if I give you castor oil, then you'll be flexible again. You'll be, you know? Yes. So there's no quick fix. It's about being consistent in giving the gut what it needs. It loves fiber, it loves roughage, it loves water. So if you give the gut that every day, you strive for that every day, there'll never be a need to detox.
Okay.
But these days I see there's very popular ways of detoxing. People go for alternative medicines. They go for colon cleansing.
Colon cleansing and all
that. You know, colon hydrotherapies and things like that. It's the same aim that our parents had when they gave us castor oil and they gave us espate, you know, to get a quick fix, you know. But in that quick fix, you can actually harm, you can actually damage your gut. You can end up with problems that were not there before. Yes, we love feeling as light as a feather. Yes, we love feeling like we are clean, you know. But remember, stools are natural. They are supposed to be there, but they have to be in a natural form, in a good form. They mustn't be hard and difficult to pass. They mustn't be watery and running out uncontrollably. They have to be formed, well-formed brown stools. So if you have well-formed brown stools that come regularly as per your system, then you're good to go.
Okay, okay. And then the impact of is it antibiotics?
Yes.
On the gut. I know that, you know, with antibiotics, they can affect the gut quite a bit.
They do. Remember, antibiotics, they are drugs that are meant to kill bacteria. So if you have a certain infection in your body, whether it's an upper respiratory infection or a urine infection or whatsoever, the aim is to kill the germ, the bacteria that caused that infection that's making you sick. But in the same process, it ends up killing the good bacteria also, which is the normal microbiome of your gut, the normal flora of your gut. So that's why you find that when you're on a period where you're taking antibiotics, you tend to have diarrhea or some cramps in your abdomen, because they kill also the normal,
the good stuff,
the good bacteria as well. So certain antibiotics, you'll find the doctor will prescribe them together with a probiotic, or they'll advise you to eat more yogurt or more of the cultured dairy while you're taking that antibiotic, as to replace the normal flora that gets killed in the process of killing the infection, the unwanted infection in your body. So yes, definitely antibiotics can affect your gut, and your gut can change the way it works while you're taking the antibiotics, which is why it's very important to get them prescribed by a doctor for the right reasons, and you get the right antibiotic. That's why you won't get them over the counter. Yes, because the side effects can be detrimental.
Absolutely.
Especially with overuse or abuse.
Yes. And I think, I mean, you know, when parents are taking, we take it for granted because your child gets prescribed with antibiotics because they're sick. We don't really ask the doctor when they don't give a probiotic that hey, should I not be taking a probiotic? Or is there something that you can prescribe me? Because probiotics are available.
They are available
over the counter.
over
They're
the
there.
counter, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we don't ask.
Yes.
And I think as we wrap up, there's not enough emphasis. And we can never overemphasize the importance of just overall diet in, within just maintaining a healthy lifestyle, maintaining a healthy gut, liver, brain, axis, and just aiding us for not just now, but living longer, living full lives, also just being present. And I think that it's very important in us being present, because all these things tie in together. We wake up sluggish, we go to bed sluggish, and it's all sometimes just got to do with us not looking after ourselves, us consuming on the go.
Yes. Diet is very important. I can never overemphasize that, Olwe2. You know the saying that says, what you put in is what you get out.
Absolutely.
Definitely, it's just that. What you put in, it will be what you get out, And diet, it's very difficult to follow in the lifestyle that we live, and it's unfortunate that in our times that healthy diet is not cost effective.
Yes.
It's not cost effective, therefore a lot of people revert to unhealthy diet because it's what they can afford. So if we can come to a point where as a nation, then fruits and vegetables or the organic stuff, they are actually affordable and readily available. That's when I will say we are winning. Because we can never emphasize the importance of good diet to our system. A lot of the foods that we eat with preservatives and so on, a lot of those stuff, they are carcinogenic. In the long term, they predispose us to certain illnesses, like even development of colon cancers and stuff like that. So in the long run, they don't work for us. We like to have a cigarette every now and then.
Yes.
In the long term, your gut is not going to like that cigarette, And you like to take alcohol every now and then. In the long run.
Every now and then.
Yeah.
Every day.
That's why we must get Ramaphosa to shut down.
Listen.
So in the long run, those things, they don't work for us. Yes, we like it now. We like it when we take it now because it does a certain thing to us that we like. But in the long run, it really works against us, And a lot of foods that we eat that are not organic,
Yes.
they have a lot of preservatives and stuff. They contain a lot of carcinogens. It's a fact. It's an unfortunate fact, but it's a fact. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people, it's what they can afford.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I remember having this conversation with one of my professors one day, that back in the day, there wasn't so much colon cancers and colon diseases, especially in the African population, as opposed to now that we've moved into the urban way of
The Western
living.
way of living and eating and doing things.
It's because back in the day, they did only the basics. They ate only the basics. Meat was eaten once in a blue moon, You'd wake up every day, you'd go pick vegetables and come and cook, You go and pick mealies and grind them yourself, as organic as they are, filter it yourself, and then cook it. So there was no quick fix pap.
Yes. Instant porridge.
Pap.
Yes.
So they ate the very basic, which is something we have to look at. We need to go back to the basics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And eat to support our insides.
Our
gut
insides,
flora.
yes. Diet is actually a drug, if you were to look at it.
Yeah.
So you give it to the body, you give only what it needs.
Yes.
Only what it needs.
And if it motivates you,
What
do
it
it for your brain. So at least your
Thank
brain can
you.
function, if that's what's going to motivate
Yes,
you.
your brain will love you.
Your brain
will
will
love you.
You can think clearer without the brain fog. So what's the one thing that comes to mind for you when you think the art of trusting your gut?
The gut is never wrong. Your gut will never be wrong. You have to trust it.
And it won't lie to you.
And it won't lie to you.
If you had
It
10
won't
bottles of wine yesterday, it will tell you.
It will tell you today that 10 bottles of wine yesterday was not right.
It was not the wine.
Was not right, you know. Your gut will never lie to you. If you give it good stuff, it will tell you these are good stuff. Bring more. If you give it bad stuff, it will tell you, I don't like this.
Yes.
I don't like this. You know, it will become constipated, or it becomes irritable, or it becomes inflamed. You know, it will never lie to you. What you put in it, if it likes it, it will tell you, I like this. You will feel that my gut loves this.
likes
It will never lie to you.
Absolutely. And where can we find more information and get in touch with you?
You can find me at Heart Medi Clinic Hospital in Pretoria, or you can call the number 012-943-8618 for more information, or you can email us at admin@drmtmalefahlo.co.za. I'm also on Instagram. Yeah, I'm that type of a doctor. Yes,
Give us
I'm
your
on
handle.
Instagram at Dr. Thabi_the surgeon. So you can find us there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thabiso. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Being
It's
so
been
informative.
It's been an absolute pleasure. An absolute pleasure, Olwe2. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of The Sit Down, where we spoke about the art of trusting your gut. This is something that is extremely important. The liver, gut, and mind. That access is something that we need to protect at all costs. So yes, it was super exciting to have Dr. Thabiso with us, unpacking this conversation further. And thank you for joining us on this journey of the art of trusting your gut, where you can find more information on it on theartofsuperwoman.com. Until next time.